Shoes. Recorded live.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Mythologic Radio. My name is Tom Murasso from BornToManifest.com. And we had a couple of weeks off, so we're glad to be back, and welcome, everybody. Today, my guest is Veronica Torres. And Veronica is based in Sonoma, California, and she's channeled the Eloheim since 2002, both publicly and in private sessions. Now, her work has a global appeal and a global audience, and she offers public channeling sessions 5 times a month. And these sessions are broadcast live on the Internet and are archived for on-demand viewing as well. So her career history is interesting and varied, and she's worked including 750 hours as a talk show radio host. I've got to clear my throat, sorry. Ownership of a rock and roll memorabilia store, network director of a holistic practitioners group, producer of well-being expos, marketing and social networking for a band, and a jewelry designer. And how she became a channeler, we will be asking her that. So welcome, Veronica. How are you?
Thank you very much. I'm so happy to be joining your show today, and I'm quite well.
Well, that's great. So, that's the big question. I mean, you got such a varied background here. Radio show host, I can identify with that. Rock and roll, I'm into rock and roll. So how did you become a channeler?
It's very interesting. You know, in 1997, I had a reading with a psychic, and he said he was a sort of a channeling psychic. He channeled and did intuitive type work. And he was channeling Merlin, and Merlin said, you know, you're going to become a channel. And I was like, no way. I don't think so. I'm not interested in that. No, thank you. It wasn't interesting to me at all. And they said, yeah, the type of being you are and where you come from and all that kind of stuff, you become eclectic channels. And, you know, you'll have a worldwide audience. And I thought, what? No, I'm not interested. That sounds like not my cup of tea at all. You know, I was young. I was only like 20, maybe I was 27, 26, something like that. And I wasn't thinking about those sorts of things, really. And so a few years later, I was with some new friends, and they were doing a Lakshmi Puja, which is basically a chant. And I'd never done anything like that either, but I thought, well, hey, this is cool. They want to do that, and I'll do that with them. And we did this chant, and it kind of got everybody in sort of an altered state, as chanting can do. And we sat down afterwards in a little circle. There were only about 5 or 6 of us. And all of a sudden, this voice just came through me. And it gave this message to the group that was there. And at the end of the message, it was very short, maybe 5 minutes. And at the end of the message, they said, we are the Elohim, and we are pleased to have been with you today. And I burst into tears. Yeah, I burst into tears because it was like, whoa. I mean, I knew all about channeling. I'd been attending a channeling group for some time, so it wasn't like it was out of the blue, but it certainly was an amazing feeling to have in my body. And the thing that was really weird is I felt conspicuous. It made me feel very conspicuous, like all eyes were on me. And that made me really uncomfortable. So I said, well, that's never going to happen again. I'm not into that. And it didn't happen for quite a few years after that again.
Okay, now let's just back up before you continue the story. This psychic that you went to see said you from where you came. What does that mean? Like another planet or what?
I'm not really into keeping track of all that sort of stuff. It hasn't ever really interested me, the idea that you are from a planet. I'm sort of like, well, I'm here now. That's more interesting to me. But, you know, that was part of the work that this other person would do, is talk about that sort of stuff, your planet of origin. And I'm, what does he say? I'm Theta Zen. And Theta Zens become channels when they come to Earth.
Oh. Okay.
Something like that. I don't know. Like I said, that's not really my my sphere of interest, is where people come from and all that stuff. It's always actually kind of confused me. But that was part of the basis of why they made this prediction, is because they said, you're a Thetazen, so therefore you become a channel. And I went, I don't know what you're talking about, and I'm not interested in that.
So what's it feel like?
Yeah,
I mean,
channel?
do you feel like you're possessed or something?
No. Well, see, the thing about possession is, I'm not an expert in possession. I've never been possessed, so I can only go on as I understand that, is that it's something not under your control. And certainly, other than that first time they came in, it's always been by my invitation since then. And you could say on a soul level, even the first time was an invitation, because obviously I made an agreement to do this work or I wouldn't be doing it. But it is not possession. It's always under my control. I'm always present while it's going on. I know what's going on. I'm not what they call a trance channel, meaning that I go completely goodbye and I'm not aware of what has happened for the last hour. I'm there. Right. I'm present. The thing that's interesting is I don't really remember it. While it's happening, I know what's going on, but afterwards I won't necessarily remember. I can remember the feeling of it more than I can remember the content. But if someone says to me, remember that time Elohim talked about XYZ, I'll remember it instantaneously. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a weird aspect of it.
So who are these guys? I mean, are they guys? I mean, who are the Elohim?
Yeah, the Elohim, they are a group. They are a group that presents as a single personality. It typically, maybe 95% of the time, feels like a masculine energy, so we do say he or they. They will say we when they channel through me. They always say we. So they present as a plural entity. And, that's kind of a funny story, too, is I'd never heard this word Elohim before that came out of my mouth after that chant the very first time. I didn't know what that word meant. And, of course, I looked it up on the Internet. And, it's like Elohim, wow, that's one of the Jewish names for God, and it's in the Bible, and it's it's all these things. And I thought, oh, boy, what is this? So finally, when I did start channeling them, I asked, are you God? Because people were saying, well, Elohim's the name of God. And I'm like, oh, boy, no. And they said, no, we are not God. But we were tasked with creating the solar system so you'd have an opportunity to experience free will in density and duality. And I went, oh, wow. You're not God, but you just did the solar system. Okay. Yeah, that was kind of intense.
So they kind of described themselves as creators then?
They created this little bitty part of the universe. They were given, literally they say, we wore the hard hats and drove the bulldozers to create a free will zone for souls to experience. They were given an assignment, for lack of better terms. They were given an assignment to create this opportunity, just like, Walt Disney built Disneyland so we could all go down there and experience Disneyland. Here, the Elohims were given the opportunity to create a place where we could have free will and density and duality. And souls went, oh, that sounds neat. Let's try that. Mm-hmm. We're that way. Okay. And we've been doing it for a while now.
Okay, so now they're also hooked up with the council. Is that something different or the same thing? Okay, what's that?
Yeah, for about 6 years, I only channeled Elohim. Mm-hmm. And then, this is kind of a funny story, I found that same psychic that had predicted I would become a channel. I found him on the Internet. I had been looking for him for a number of years, and he popped up in one of my Yahoo groups. And I was like, oh, my gosh, this is him. So I sent him an email, and I got another reading with him. And you know what he says? He says, you're going to start channeling more. You're not just going to channel Elohim. You're going to start channeling more. And I said, no, I don't want to do that either. And a year went by, and I said, no, I don't want to. It's a very intimate act to allow an entity to come into your body, and I just was like, oh, I'm happy with Elohim. Sure enough, one of our meetings, we're sitting there having our normal Wednesday night meetings like we've had since 2002, and Elohim just says, what's going on? What's going on? The whole energy of the room just changed. And then they said, okay, hang on, everybody, and boom. The visionaries came in, and I started channeling the visionaries. And when the visionaries came in, they spoke. The transcript is like 3 pages long, And I think we had to change 2 words that they got the tense wrong on. They literally came through like they were reading a script. And they continue to come through like they're reading a script. They're so different from Elohim. And they come through, they read, it's like they read their script, and then they get off the stage. It's very, very, very different. And Elohim was completely moved that night because the visionaries act, in essence, the relationship that Elohim described to us is that the visionaries are like Elohim's guides. And so for them to participate in Elohim's project, they were so moved. I believe they actually cried while in my body. I mean, I believe my body cried because of their enormous emotional response to the visionaries joining our group. And it was a big deal, and it continues to be a big deal.
Let me just say right now, we've got several people listening into the show. Mm-hmm. We've got a chat room, and you've been gracious to allow the Eloheim to talk to some of our guests if they want to call in. So let me give out that number.
Okay.
It's 724-444-7444. And then the prompts will ask you for a show ID, and that's 59174. So if you want to talk to the Eloheim, dial 724-444-7444, follow the prompts, and the show ID is 59174. We also have a chat room, and one of our guests has asked, what's their latest assignment? They were assigned to create this third-dimensional